And welcome back, my dear meat aficionados and sausage enthusiasts, to the 133rd glorious episode of our award-winning podcast, Worst World. I'm your hospitable host, Hans-Peter Heidinger, and today we have prepared a spectacle that will make your mouths water. But before we dive in, let me proudly announce that this episode is brought to you by none other than Sebastian's Schnitzel, the schnitzel manufacturer that delights your palate and makes your taste buds dance. Thanks to Sebastian's Schnitzel, the ultimate destination for all schnitzel lovers, our show today is sponsored by... Wait, what? Oh, wrong podcast? I apologize. I'm sorry, guys. Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to FATED ARPG podcast. We're in episode 133, straight to you from the 3.24 league start, and there's a ton of stuff to talk about, so let's dive right into it. If you've been supporting the show, though, you'll be shouted out at the end screen. So if you want to secure your space for the next month, then make sure to renew that Twitch subscription or pledge on Patreon or do the YouTube membership thing, and let's go. How are you doing, Ballard?
You have no idea how confused I was for a minute then. I did not want us that was happening. I was just thoroughly confused.
It was a very, very spontaneous thing. I just like, how funny would it be? And then I was like, AI logo, tack, this, that. But yeah, slight miss up. I missed. I skipped a line in the table, in the timetable of podcasts that I'm doing. But yeah, we got with us today a passionate PoE aficionado, Lighty. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm good. I was also very fucking confused by that. I was. It reminded me like I was watching Tropic Thunder for the first time, and they had all those fake commercials and stuff, and that's what that was happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're good. Being chilling.
And to celebrate the occasion, we also have back here with us BigDucks, who appeared for the first time alongside Lighty in episode 62. That's more than 70 episodes ago. And it's going to be interesting to see how the viewpoints have evolved over time and how they hold up in the current state of the game.
Yeah, I'm here for the meat market. Where's it at? Can we go back to that instead?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to share my passion for sausage with you guys. But first, we need to get through this Path of Exile thingy. I have a bunch of things written down, but like maybe we should just like start with our like first experiences. Like, what did your league start with, and where did you like first interact with the league, and when did you feel like you had a grip on it, and what was your first impression of it?
You guys have a grip on the league mechanic?
I sort of do.
Sure.
To a decent extent, I feel that I do. Yeah.
I don't.
Well, initially my feelings on the league mechanic were that it was honestly kind of cool. I was like, oh, it is what it is. This is the first time since what, Betrayal, that they did a non-optional league mechanic, I'm pretty sure. Am I missing any? Or is it just Betrayal, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Betrayal
so
last time I remember.
It's the first time in a long time they did a non-optional league mechanic. I personally didn't have almost any issues with it going through the campaign, but I mean, I was playing degenerate bows, so no issues to be had at that point. But the further I've gotten into it, the less I like it. The less excited I am about the mechanic. The more I learn, the less excited I am, unfortunately.
All right, who goes next? Do you want to go, Balor, or should I tell? Or Lighty looks super enthusiastic, so we'll keep that for last.
I mean,
okay, go for it.
I have no. I mean, there's like multiple facets with how the league mechanic operates, and I had absolutely zero issues interacting with it. As far as difficulty, it's not that much more difficult than the base game from my perspective. And reward-wise, the crafting system seems, if we're to rank crafting systems, it is like the bottom of the barrel at the moment, I think. And I think there's some like UI issues and storage issues. But aside from the crafting portion, the map interacting portion, and the Ember portion, I have zero complaints about, zero difficulty complaints, zero loot complaints about that part. So I'm fine, basically.
It did sound like you just listed everything.
Well, there's three prongs to the league, right? You have the forced map mechanic, you have the embers, then you have the crafting. The crafting part, I think, is very pitiful at the moment. The embers are fine, and then I think the map part is fine. So 2/3 of the league is fine, as from what I've seen so far. I just think the storage is like, I don't know who's in charge of over there as far as when it comes to this league mechanic stuff, but every time they come up with a storage system, there should be someone's job who just says quadruple it. And I know that we'll hit that limit too, but it's like 64.
And they already doubled it once is the craziest part. Like it was
64 is
already
like,
32.
It's crazy. I mean, it's like
that's what we've been told.
A couple of maps and that shit's full. So I don't know who thought that was cool, but
it's also every league that we have like league storage stuff. We need literally 10 times at minimum what they give us every single time for like 6 years. It's been like every single league.
I think I remember Mark saying something. I vaguely remember him saying something that they like to start it out that way. Like they're perfectly fine with it being way too little at the start, and then they just ramp it up over time, which is a little confusing to me that they're fine with that. But
could we not?
I mean,
how about we just start with 600 instead of 64?
We have quad tabs. Why not just make it the size of a quad tab?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, my hot take is that they should have just been itemized from the get-go. Like, I know they don't like itemizing things immediately, but I know they're trying to do the bestiary thing where you buy the coffin and then you right-click the coffin on it. They should have just dropped from the get-go. It would have fixed so many things.
The coffin cost is a chaos, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been leaving them on the ground, almost all of them. I don't want to pay a chaos for especially in solo. Like in league early on, that's like offensively expensive. Honestly, they could have sold 10 for one chaos or something, but even in solo self-fund, it's just like I don't want to spend a chaos to itemize plus 50 defense weighting, and we can't filter them and you can't minimize them. So it's just gonna sit there on the floor, you know, sad.
What I've been doing is opening up the UI once every like 3 maps and just burning every single corpse that I have, because the UI that pops up blocks my loot and it's really annoying.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate.
So I just burn 64 corpses about every 3 maps so that I can get rid of the stupid UI.
There's a
wait, you fill up the 64 corpses in 3 maps?
3 to 5 or something.
It feels like it's in 3 maps. It's probably not 3 maps, but it feels like it happens constantly.
I don't know. Maybe it's 10. I don't know, but it happens very often.
I like how
it's just there's so many other problems with the mechanic compared to other existing forms of crafting. I mean, the obvious notable comparison is ROG, because it's kind of similar in its form and function. And the fact that you could spend 30 to 40 maps making one item that would be the same effort as doing ROG, and it's almost always going to come out massively worse, just feels like it's such a poor balance compared to it. I would basically compare it to like what Harvest Crafting is now. And Harvest Crafting now is nothing more than rolls and hits a tag, but like that kind of feels similar to what's the existing iteration of Necropolis is for crafting.
Yeah, I basically called it ROG, but worse as well. That's straight up how I feel about it.
It's ROG's apprentice, but it's just a first year.
Yeah. Okay, the bases are the big thing. I think that's one of the most offensive parts, because I saw someone in the guild earlier spend large amounts. I think it was like 50 something corpses making an item that, despite the fact it also didn't roll well, it hit like a shabby jerkin, and it's just like, okay, so then it after all that, it's shit to bed in the final step. So I don't know what the resolution is, whether it's like we put in a white base and then do it. Maybe that's a fix, but then that all has its own problems. So
I think probably what they would end up doing, if I had to guess, is either nothing, which is probably most likely when it comes to the bases, or if they actually wanted to fix it, They could make it so that maybe there is like certain base types that can drop as corpses or something like that, or like a base that allows you to choose it, like a corpse that allows you to choose the base or something.
If you can,
So
yeah, go.
if you still want RNG involved, which seems like what they're fucking after for some reason, even though I don't like that, I like determinism, but if you want RNG involved, you could always have it do something along the lines of, hey, these are the roles of bases we picked. You get to pick one of 3 of them.
Like
at least,
like end of lab kind of how it has the 3
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd
like
be okay.
you put a bunch of luckies in for high tier rolls, and it goes up. Here's the best 3 that we rolled out of the set. We re-rolled 5 times, and these were the highest 3. You get to pick one, and at least then we'd have like a bit more choice involved, and have
maybe if there was
likely
like
to get a good base.
maybe if there was like a little bit of smart choice to it, like 3 different kinds of bases. Because like I think the big offender is weapons. Because there's so many bad weapon types. Like it's impossible to craft
bows,
a proper
especially.
Weapon.
That's like if you don't hit one, if you don't hit like spine bow or imperial, it's just a wash out the gate.
Yep, completely useless. Yep.
Some builds want a citadel bow, but yeah,
Sure,
bleed bow
but,
guys are.
What are you gonna do? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Hit a grove bow.
But yeah, your point well taken. You want a very specific bow for a specific crafting project. It's not like another base is going to work very well.
Yeah.
And even then,
it just seems a little
can't be
underdone.
synthesized or influenced, the items that are made, right? I haven't seen a
As far
single.
as I know, I haven't seen anything about implicits besides re-rolling them.
It'll just perpetually be you could craft it after the fact, I guess, but
haven't seen it myself, but people have got a random influence corpse.
Random.
Which is actually worse than not using an influence.
Real cool.
Like it's actually worse than not using. If it was a specific influence, I could build the tags around using it. If it's random, I need to know what it is first before I mess with the tags.
And then like
still bad.
Yeah, the cherry on top of the entire thing is that even if we ignore everything that we just talked about, right? When you actually take the step of trying to meaningfully interact with it, even if you could interact with it properly, it's easily one of the most convoluted, complicated, just insane amount of time spent and just frustration of clicking things to make one item, and it's almost always
clicking
bad.
is brutal. Just walking around the graveyard is brutal, and the fact that if you like misclicked once, there's no way to exhume a corpse. Your options are destroy or that's it.
Well, it's still pretty cool to have that, because when you're placing corpses, there's no cremate button on the list anymore, even though it's the exact same list that is shown to you in your map when you want to cremate corpses when the morgue is full. So it's kind of good that you can bury the corpse and delete it that way, at least, even though it's extra steps.
But it gets worse, because if you want to delete a bunch of bad corpses because you're like, all right, I'm going to try. So you want to delete a bunch of bad corpses. So you open up the menu and then you type in 25 to find all the like lowest tier things to burn them. And then you burn one. You have to click it. The thing pops up. You have to click accept. It resets the list and gets rid of your 25. You have to click back in there.
You have to re-enter the search filter.
Burn it. Clears
all
the
the
list.
time.
Click back in there. Type 25. List back.
And so I'm really surprised that you guys said it's wrong, but in bad, because for me, this is basically really, really similar to Bestiary. This is basically Einhar, right? But it's a backwards development from Einhar, because all the quality of life that we're missing here was actually implemented in Bestiary. In Bestiary, you don't have to click the corpses, because Einhar collects them for you. There's, like, I think a bigger limit on beasts, I don't know. But you can seal on the UI, right? Like when you want to seal beasts, you put them into the list and the searchable list. But in the morgue, you have to walk around with the corpses in the physical world and seal them there. And they're not sorted. They're just like lying around there randomly. Then you can't use Control F to get to the search mask. And like Balor says, it resets all the time. Then this, I actually counted this. When your morgue is full, right? And you click a corpse, the collect button in your map, it takes 8 seconds between the click and the Undertaker being ready to show you the list of corpses that you create. You sit there waiting for 8 seconds until he becomes clickable. And yeah, and the failing to plan is punished so hard because you delete your corpses that it's upsetting as well. But it's so
I think,
surprising to me that all these things, they know these things, right? They've made the mistakes in the past. They've done the correct solutions and the correct designs since. So why now? Please, Dux, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think that no, it's good. There's like a little tiny bit of lag, but I think the comparison with ROG that you said earlier is because this is an item creation mechanic. It's not an item editing mechanic, and I think that's like the big difference. If there was some way to use the graveyard to edit items, I don't know how, but if you were able to edit them with the graveyard, there might be some kind of possible something that you could do useful. But right now, I've watched people craft things with 64 corpses, and I'm just like, that looks like a good 50 chaos wand that you got from the trade website, and you spent 500 chaos worth of corpses to be able to make it. It's like,
Okay. I just posted something in our chat. That is a post that just went up literally as we were speaking.
nice.
It is a what we are working on post. And the very first thing on the list, I don't know if anyone can bring that up on screen. I can't because I'm using multiple computers.
Yeah, I see it.
The very first thing on the list, we will be allowing you to itemize corpses as they drop so that you can choose to collect corpses as itemized for free. As a result, itemizing corpses in all contexts will now be free as opposed to costing the 1 chaos orb. Now, here's the thing. We could have called that before the league even started. But hey, it's only like day 3 and that's already on the plan. So that's pretty good. I'm happy about that. But it gets better. There are so many good things in here.
Oh, you could select the base. This is a problem. Like as good of a change as all this is, it really begs the question: what the fuck? Because this is all stuff that again, everyone's caught this minute 1, and it's like, how would you not do it? I feel like a little bit. This is one of the situations where we're like actual guinea pigs, and they're just like someone's sitting there just gauging, like, oh, I wonder if we could just fuck with everybody and see what happens for 3 days. Because we're gonna make these changes anyway.
Didn't they say that like with the scarabs they don't want to mess up the end game because then the game's probably dead, so they had it on alpha for already like a month? There's no way that this league has been on alpha for a month, or they ignored every single bit of UI QOL feedback that they got.
I think
I don't know. It's very strange.
If I'm going to like
people are saying
give
muted.
GGG the benefit
on stream.
That was before. If I'm going to give GGG like the benefit of the doubt here, right? If I'm going to give them full benefit of the doubt, the only thing I can realistically think of is that yes, they know all of this stuff, but this was like iteration 1 or iteration 2 or 3 or whatever of the mechanic that they did, and they cared much more about scarabs and everything else. And this is just like on the back burner, and it had to be. It's the only reasonable thing I can think of. And if so, it is what it is. But
to be fair, a lot of those scarabs are really good. I'm real excited about experimenting with a bunch of these scarabs. Like that part nailed really well.
True. I don't think it's nailed. I think it's because there's a lot of issues with waiting when it comes to scarabs. But I think there's so many good scarabs in there. Yeah.
When I say nailed, I mean like the idea of getting rid of sextants and doing all of these interesting scarabs.
A- for me.
It's really good. Waiting of scarabs is something that will hopefully develop over time, and we'll get, better ability to use them. But I'm real happy with the system, right?
Everything with the scarab stuff, again, like that's to me way more important than honestly the league. The league is by far second fiddle to the Scarab Atlas changes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same thing though, where it's like all these very obvious, like if we pulled them, like 95% probably unanimous decisions we're all talking about in Necropolis changes that are like, why didn't you just do it in the start? When we look at things like the Scarab weighting breakdown, because we've seen people have done chunks of 40, 50,000, and you look at what's weighted in what way, and people aren't hitting certain Scarabs after handing in 50,000, that to me is a little bit of also like what is going on. And if that gets patched in like a week or something, fine. But there's just some of those kind of like anomalous decisions that I just don't know what they're rooted in. It's definitely not.
We don't know the exact in and out on that. Like it maybe just some you can't get from the.
You can. They're all accessible from Veiled Scarabs. Yeah.
It's just the waiting. All extractable from them.
You can get all of them because we had like 5 or 6 people that just posted on Reddit that did 20, 30, 40, 50,000 and they were all really, really similar. Like the amounts that they got from them, they were super similar. Like the tier 3 divination card scarab was like 0 to 10 out of 50,000 is how many they got.
So real quick, some more of the interesting things, or the things that excite me from this post, because I'm not really much of a crafter to begin with. Some of the mods that I really hated because they were trash. It looks like they're getting quite buffed. We'll be making devoted modifiers more rewarding, notably the ones that grant currency items, because the ones that currently give us a jeweler orb but only on a Tuesday, those are shit. Those are some shit.
Speak for yourself. I had a 2% chance to drop an exalt item. I bumped it up by 1 for a 3% and had it on a high density corpse thing. I got 5 exalts out of that map.
No, you're thinking about the wrong one. There's one that makes the whole pack drop something, and then there's this modifier that says the strongest pack in a mob.
Oh, the conversion ones, has armors have a 50% chance.
It drops a jewelry.
Yeah,
and you're just like, no, that's nothing. That's a 0 thing.
Yep.
Okay, right.
Like,
no, what really excites me about this, I don't know whether you've gone that far down into the grave crafting. As you said, you're not that much of a crafter, but they removed tiers from most of the crafts. This is exactly what I wanted, because there was no reason to pick the low tier ones, because you have limited slots. You have only 60 slots to save them, and you have limited slots to grave craft in. So why would you waste it on like a 200% increased chance, or like on a 25 mod tier rating, when you need to hit certain thresholds with your limited slots, right? So that's pretty good.
Yep.
Why don't we just reschedule this podcast for tomorrow? You know?
Right?
Well, it's just like talking about any of the Necropolis crafting is a totally fucking moot point now, because it's all going to be massively revived.
This post is hitting like almost every pain point I've had.
Yeah, almost.
Almost
we could talk
every
about
pain point I've had is fixed in this post.
I want to know what you
talk
guys
about other stuff.
like. Well, I'm curious about one thing you guys think about. So it's like I have very little complaints about this patch. My only complaints are basically all resolved in this one post, right? So everything else is all fantastic for me. I'm curious though. Do you think it's a possibility, right? I'm putting on the tinfoil hat. We're going full crazy mode here. Do you think that they were basically banking, like holding on to this update instead of putting on launch just after the weekend, just to like bump up favor, like somehow make them like seem
No, like
I don't think so
good
either, but
league launch would have been way better publicity than like reacting quickly to another.
What was it? A bad league launch, like metrically? I have no idea.
Yes.
Yes,
So
the worst that's ever happened. Actually,
yeah, it's by far the worst retention that has ever from any league. It's under 70% already on day 3.
What? Okay, I was not aware of the numbers wise thing. I just know that a lot of people
time
already
here,
said that they pieced out.
Playing Path of Exile.
I don't think I want to hark on about that too much, because that's one of those there's multiple reasons for data. We do have the raw data, and it's undisputable that it's the worst that's ever happened.
That's crazy.
But there's also a bunch of different reasons for that, not just shit league, right? Like there's also the largest amount of retention that ever happened last league in the final week of the league. Way more than ever in the past. People were playing all the way up to the end of 3 months, which means burnout is a thing, and that's going to have a huge impact. The middle of Easter weekend, which like weekends and holidays are usually good. Easter and Christmas specifically tank people quite often, because those are family related holidays that a lot of people end up having to do family. I obviously
I think they released on haven't they released on Easter like twice now though? I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time.
Yes, and both of those were bad, but not as bad as this one. I'm saying it's a combination of everything. That's all. Yeah, I'm just saying like people will read the data and be like, this is the worst league ever because it's got the worst retention ever. But there's like more factors in play than just league bad. God, this post. What have I got left to complain about, man? Everything in his saying we're fixing it.
Could you repeat that last sentence? You were like glitching out pretty hard.
The Feds got him.
Oh, I don't know what to complain about now. Everything on this post is exactly what I want to.
Oh, and you're super desync now. Like, do you want to quickly hop out and hop in again to fix it?
shit.
Or I don't know whether it
Oh,
fixes over
shit.
the time.
Big GGG got him. That's it. They got him, boys.
The Gestapo got him, dude.
Oh no.
Is it me?
Is this just
Yeah,
April
it's-
Fool's?
Yeah, you were lagging very hard there for a little bit.
Is it fixed now?
Looks like it. Yeah.
You still sound like shit.
That's just my voice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I mean, look, like taking a step back and looking at this, I actually think it's kind of quite interesting that we all just laid out all of our complaints, right? And I'm pretty sure we just listed exactly what's on this list. Like I think it's
Well,
actually point
suspicious,
for point
honestly.
all the way down. Yeah, like it's
Mm.
kind of it's kind
I
of.
didn't even get to my praise part yet. I wanted to praise first, but then you guys started all shitting on it. I have praise, dude.
You guys, I have nothing but good things to say. It's April Fool's. This could be a fucking joke.
Okay, the color coding is really nice to have. I
True.
like the color coding on the mods in the morgue list.
Yeah, there's a couple interesting things here. I mean, being able to choose the base, they're removing the tiers from the craft, so it's just 500% increased chance for one now, which makes it way easier to target stuff. Let's see what else. You're able to directly use coffins in your morgue panel instead of having to try to find them in the morgue.
Yeah,
Good.
that's one I had on my list. Yeah.
They fixed
really
the
big
search thing. That was one thing that we talked about, and they buffed the reroll sockets and links. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
They didn't say
Seems good.
completely. They didn't fix the other search aspect. You can't do Control F, but it doesn't say that the search mask doesn't reset on deleting a corpse. I hope that will be in though. And they said there's a lot more happening. I mean, we always have to see, like with patch notes and stuff like that, this is only the stuff that they're able to currently confirm 100% that they are changing, and there's way more going on behind the scenes, obviously.
oh, interesting. If you look at the bottom, it says the long weekend here unfortunately costs us the capability to respond to larger changes as fast as we'd like, and they won't be releasing on public holiday weekends going forward. So
Like the game?
Yeah.
Like launching full stop?
yeah, it says like make sure we don't deploy expansions on public holiday weekends as we don't have the personnel available to make changes as fast as we want.
Really? They have like 200 employees.
Well,
Yeah,
not
but
on
they're in New
Easter,
Zealand.
apparently.
They can't abuse
Fucking
them
the
like
bunny
they do in
rabbit
the
took
US.
them all. All right.
Obviously, I don't work there, so this is just what I've gathered. But basically, it feels like, at least from the people I've talked to, they never force anyone to work holidays. They do have people
Yeah.
work holidays,
Or
but they
else.
don't even ask. Like, it's just like it's volunteer. If you want to come in on the holidays and help, they'll let you. They don't turn down overtime and shit like that, but they don't do crunch. They don't do forcing people to work on holidays. They don't do like any of those things. Like, if somebody's there, they're there because they want to be,
Yeah, or else.
which is great, but also real bad for us if we need changes immediately and it's the public holiday weekend, right? But very good for them, and I approve of it. Like, I don't want that. That's good, right?
What's your top 5 holidays?
Every day's the same to
I'm-
me.
I'm actually quite a bit of a curmudgeon when it comes to this. I'm so not a fan of holidays. I get annoyed because the grocery store is not open.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I had that before League launch actually. That I was like, oh, should I still go? Because I
tried
can't
to
go
order
on
food.
Monday.
There was one place was open, and it was a Chinese place.
Of
And
course.
God bless the Chinese. You know, shout out to Mao. And you know, there's nothing. They don't ever close, no matter what happens. So that's sweet. You know, whether it's Easter, Christmas, it's great.
So looking at this list, I don't see them saying anything about opting in. It seems like they want to keep it so that it's non-optional.
You thought that was going to
one-
change?
Oh,
Well,
Good.
Man.
one thing, when I first initially looked at this league mechanic, and I said this to my chat, I was like, does this not look like the most straight to standard league mechanic that they've ever made? Like, it almost feels guaranteed that this is going to be like just in the game immediately. It feels like that's how they designed it from the like ground up.
You haven't played Hardcore Betrayal on launch then?
No, I haven't. I'm very glad I didn't.
No,
And when
I
I
think
mean
this is
straight to
pretty
standard-
avoidable. Like you can walk around it, right? Like sure, if you don't interact with the lantern at all, you're not aware of which monsters have the rippy mods in your zone. It's pretty punishing, especially in the act playthrough when your defenses are not sorted out yet, or when you're playing one of the weaker builds. But I feel like once you're sorted out and if you don't put like the worst mods on the worst packs, it's kind of almost unnoticeable.
I agree,
I think this
yeah.
is something that goes above a lot of people's heads with the league mechanic currently, because there's so many other things, everyone trying to learn the crafting and all that. But there is actually a layer of smart decision making in the lantern mechanic where you can put mods on monsters where they don't matter. Like for example, put additional projectile mods on mobs that don't have projectile skills and stuff like that. But yeah, like if you just want to blast through the acts like you do in other leagues and ignore the league mechanic until you're in maps, then yeah, every once in a while you're in for a treat there.
So I think I either misspoke or was misunderstood there. When I said straight to standard, I didn't mean in the like the hardcore straight to standard kind of aspect. I meant as like going core.
Oh,
This-
as in
this,
like when the league ends, they could directly, without further
Yeah.
balancing, make it a core
This
mechanic.
league seems like it is just straight up designed to go straight to core, is what it felt like to me. And that makes me wonder if this is how they're going to like increase the difficulty of the game, sort of. Because I really like the fact that new players and anybody can see what all the different mob packs do now. This is like
Yeah.
the first time we've ever gotten anything in game that gives you even the
Yes.
slightest amount of information on what monsters do.
I've
That's, like,
praised that
tangible.
beforehand. Yeah, the tutorial aspect of the league that encourages you to think critically about what monsters do and how they like behave.
I do,
So,
I
yeah,
do like that.
It's nice, but I just wonder. And I think that I don't know what you want to call it, come to God moment. I had in, I think it was Act 3 when I was in Lunaris Temple. You know the what's the name of them? The mobs that shoot like 800 projectiles all over and over in a barrage. The
name for 'em,
demon
yeah.
mob.
The tentacle
Okay.
ladies.
I remember the original name for them
I got
now,
a name
but I
for
didn't
him,
know if you
yeah.
wanted me. I know what I remember now that you laughed. Crucial said it in chat. But anyways, I was not looking at the lantern at all while I was leveling up. Right, I looked at it in the first two zones, and then I completely ignored it from then on.
You looked at
But when I was in
Roazone, right?
Lunaris, I looked in the Roa zone. I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I was like, I don't want the Roas to have something crazy. But so I went into Lunaris Temple, and you know the modifier that those mobs got? They got mobs with this modifier always stun.
Oh,
And
that's a good
and
one.
and I walked up to the part where you like get to Piety's platform or whatever it is, and I had like 3 health potions or something on me, and I was stunned for legitimately 15 seconds straight. There was just nothing that I could do. There was no surviving. They just chain stunned me until I was dead. So it does seem like like if you don't interact with it, there are some mechanics that will just completely destroy you, is what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that we have stop signs and red lights. You know, we look at them, we learn from them. So unless you're like
Some
actually
people do.
blind, I'm sure you could. Yeah, well, just don't play hardcore solo self and ruthless. Then you should be fine.
You know,
And
you
learn
can drive
to
when
read,
you're
yeah.
legally blind.
You can.
That
Yeah,
was a
one time.
that was a
and then-
that was a terrifying thought, or a terrifying fact that I learned, that you can drive. You can have a license while you're legally blind.
But yeah, I mean, again, like if you choose to not interact with the mechanic and ignore how it operates, and then still play the league, especially in a hardcore setting, then you will get exactly what's coming to you, and probably get railed by permastun or multiple projectiles. Or if you're doing what Catmaster said, and then you look at, oh, these monkeys can get multiple prods, therefore it does nothing. It's a dead stat. Then crisis avoided. No problem. Like, so read.
Oh,
use your
until
brain.
they randomly spawn as a rare mob with the Inferno Bolt mod, and then
Sure, but we're also still playing Path of Exile. The game is not designed to help you; it's designed to rail you 24/7. They're not on our side. It's like PSA monsters fight back. Headline. It's like
The devs are an antagonist here, not a friend.
Yeah,
So-
this isn't Helldivers. The devs aren't coming in to drop you supplies. It's like they're here to ruin our day and then patch it a week later.
I don't remember where I heard this to begin with. It wasn't my sentence. Somebody said it somewhere. I saw the clip. But as far as like unavoidable content, you opted into the league when you hit create character in the league.
Yeah. You said that, and I quoted that on the last podcast, and Bella was not a fan of me quoting that.
Yep.
No, I like it now.
I've been saying it for 12 years.
Now.
Where
Like
you choose to be
decision.
here. That's the same thing with hardcore. It's like the second you tick that box, no matter what happens, whether you DC or something bugs out, or it's actually like an honest death, that's on you. You signed up. You know, like you relinquish your ability to point at someone else. So you don't want to interact with the mechanic. Don't play the league. There's tons of fun stuff to do in standard.
I just wonder how big of a percentage of the player base that's going to cull is the question that I would have. People who just don't want to interact with it meaningfully, but they want to play the game, because you could play in standard, but like for example, the price of the new elemental hit gem in standard is a cool 10 divines for that.
Then you could go to lab and farm it and make a ton of money just as easily. It's like they're two sides of the same coin, you know. It's like if you want to,
I farmed one of those gems and it took me.
I did lab for 9 hours almost yesterday. Okay,
I'm sorry.
I trust it. I'm used to it. That's fine. It's like this is
9 hours.
9 hours.
Of lab?
I don't like torturing myself, so I'm good. I appreciate your sacrifice for doing that for the content, though.
I don't even want to run lab to get my ascendancy.
Well, you know, then don't do it. Just buy it. You're in trade. Buy ascendancy. Buy a carry.
Yeah, I do lab once.
Each lab once. Can you buy a carry for lab?
Of course you can.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. You can. The guy has vitality and discipline. You just camp on him and walk next to him. And you can do anything you want in trade league.
That's the lowest of the low, huh?
Well,
I still do my own labs. I'm just not happy about it.
Since league is fixed, I mean, we could talk a little bit about the scarabs, I guess, and just like in general, tier 17 maps, scarabs.
Just a second. I got 2 more points about the league mechanic, because there's like the stuff addresses like mostly the crafting that we talked about, right? We didn't talk that much about the mechanic itself, the lantern mechanic. We touched upon the unavoidable aspect, and we have different opinions on that. But I wanted to ask whether you guys noticed that the UI is really weird. That's more like a little sidetrack. But if you bring up the UI for your all flame embers, right? When you manipulate your next zone on the map device, did you notice that it's weird? Because it's 8 by 4 squares, but the Necropolis locker is 6 by 5. So the Necropolis locker has 30 slots, but when it pops up next to your map device, it shows it 32 slots. And your inventory, instead of being 5 by 12 or whatever, that's normally your inventory, right? Is 8 by something else. It's super weird. I just noticed it's 8 by 8, right? Yeah, 64.
I don't think I've ever had enough all flame embers to be able to notice that. I just kind of toss most of the useless ones on maps constantly.
I also never filled it up, but it doesn't need to be full to notice that the grid has like a different dimension. It's just really odd in terms of a decision. Maybe it looks better that way if it's only 4 wide or high, 8 wide. But I wanted to know what's the best amount of like tattoos or currencies. Yeah, that makes sense. But what's the best amount of like stuff that you took out of a map by manipulating the all flame and putting like monster populations with specific loot drops into good slots? Like I just mentioned my 5 exalts. I had some maps with a couple of tattoos, but other than that, the only noteworthy thing were the. Oh, that's nice. The quality gems from the Gemling Legionnaires.
I think you're missing the most important thing. Is the fact that this league, every single map is worth roughly 1/200th of a nameless seer, and that I think is the most important thing.
That's the thing that you're the happiest about for sure.
Well, but anyone who's playing the game, if you're trading, like Nameless Seer almost always has at least a tier 1 unique, which has value. So you could literally put in a white map, check for Nameless Seer, nope, put in the next white map, and I've churned like 600 in the past 2 days, just looking for him. And that's
I got the Nameless Seer at level 8 and he gave me nothing. I got him again at level 12 and he gave me nothing. And I got him again at level 36 and he gave me nothing.
Oh,
And I kind of felt pretty bad. I was like, where's my tabula, dude? This is 3 just in the campaign, just through RNG. And he gave me Ezomite Peak and 2 of the Comb Sign Rings, which are worth literally nothing because everyone else was getting them as well. I was like, come on, dude. I wasted 40 minutes clearing these dumbass zones and got nothing out of it. So as for the best thing I got, honestly, the thing that you look for every single time is you're looking for chance to drop the good currency, not the conversion. The conversions are pretty lame. You get like the 2 or 3% chance to drop chaos or divine or exalts or whatever. You take the rats or you take the frogs and you put it on top of it, and then you get the explosions of currency. I got like 34 chaos or something from a map once, and I haven't seen the divine one, so. T10 map, Neversink gets a made. Yo, I legit think that Neversink cheats somehow. I don't know how, because at almost every league he posts some just unhinged shit that he drops, like some crazy stuff, and it's always in solo self-found most of the time too. This one isn't, but like,
I mean,
I've
gotten 2 T0 this league already, but not through Nameless Seer. You know, just keep playing. What's your play time? Because I streamed 17 hours for 3 days in a row this league so far, not including today. So if you
back to back 17 hours.
No, 3 in a row. All 3. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I couldn't play day 2, and I couldn't play most of day 2 and most of day 3 because the servers were completely unplayable for me. So
What server?
I'm in Florida, and that means that there is this big giant bottleneck that happens in northern Florida where for some reason at some time the GGG servers, and only the GGG servers, no matter what I'm connected to, just don't work.
You should just move.
True. I wish I could soon. Yeah. I'm gonna get out of this hellhole. Don't worry.
Nice.
But not because of Pee-wee.
Because Florida. I mean, I lived there for a couple of years. I know.
Were those your 2 points for the league? We talk about the good stuff now.
I got that. Yeah, you can talk about the good stuff. Go for it. Certain like scarabs. I have a question with scarabs. Why can you increase the chance for certain scarabs on the tree and others not?
You can increase the chance for all of them. It depends by default blocking other things. You're effectively increasing the chance for others. If you're referring to like why I can't get ritual scarabs to drop, when you do all the other breakers, it increases ritual scarab drop rate effectively.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't notice that the disabling mechanics also disables those scarabs from dropping. Well, I think a lot of people miss that.
Like we discussed earlier, period players and reading are not normally a pair, so not surprised.
That's fair to point out. I haven't picked a block yet, but so I haven't hovered over them and read them. But yeah, that is cool to know that you can't get those. So if you exclude like a whole bunch of mechanics, then you're way more likely to get scarabs of that one mechanic that you didn't exclude.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so because that was brought as a complaint to me that someone wanted to make a breach atlas tree and was like, well, I can't facilitate getting more breach scarabs, but that is a way, indirectly then. That's fair.
Yeah, like scarabs in general seem to drop quite a bit, but it's very, very heavily weighted towards the bottom portion of the scarabs. Like those normal scarabs drop all the time, but
to be fair,
because go ahead.
Certain of the bottom scarabs are the best in the set, depending on the scarab.
They are absolutely like the Legion ones. Legion ones are fantastic. The bottom set, the first two from Legion, awesome.
I'm not sure which one it is. Whatever the one that lets you open it unlimited times. That one's extremely rare, but very, very good.
I saw the video that the guy posted of that day one, and that looked hilarious. Just opening the same exact Legion guys, like because he had one of those standard like 8,000% AoE Blade Vortex explodey builds, and he just destroyed the entire screen 50 times in a row, and there was just 800 mobs. Yeah, but that one's gonna be disgustingly rare, like absurdly rare, multiple divines easily. But the sergeants, more sergeants per legion, and just more legions, and being able to have 5 legions every map guaranteed, plus 5 sergeants in every single legion.
Yep.
I mean, that's great, and they're common.
Yep.
It's really good.
Yeah, Scarab's good.
What are some of the scarabs you're excited about?
I did a bunch of Ghosted Exiles for days 2 and 3 because I need to get just to drop like the every T2 down pretty much to use. That's been great. Like meticulous appraiser trees and the new map effect in the Atlas. So that was really good. Dropping you could do a Alkengo map gives you 800 rarity because of the meticulous appraiser with that. And that base scarab, the one that gives you just like 2 of the very smallest, is 4 exiles plus 3 from the thing plus 1 from tree, half repaired. So it's 15 to 20 per map, all of which are ghosted, all of which have increased IR from Reliquary. So, and you can do that in a tier 1 map, just basically infinitely. So there's like a lot of really fun strategies. The Harbinger ones people have been really happy with. There's a bunch of ones there, and there's no shortage of like fun Atlas strats this league, especially for the scarabs. And also the pages. The pages are fucking insane, having 3 pages. Yeah. And big shout out to them for making them at what I would call like accessible breakpoints of like 50 and 100 is like totally fair.
It's
totally
way
fair
better than expected,
sense. And the thing that people don't really, maybe not realize, but when you get to 50 points and you get your tree, you just got a free Atlas reset effectively also. Because it's not as if your tree is a copy of your first tree. It's a blank tree. So it's like you just dropped 60 unmaking orbs and can fiddle with that. So those extra trees being totally blank are super great.
Yeah, I had that on the league start that I actually was like, I had theory crafted beelining to Unwavering Vision to get the 20 Atlas skill points to get my tree set up earlier. And then on the way there, we all noticed how frequently scarabs drop, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like, should I really pick it? And then I committed to it, and I was like, nah, I should have not picked it. But then I was so close. I was already at 33 completion. I was like, I'll just get 17 more completion, and then I'll make a new tree that doesn't include that and get the mechanics that I want there.
That keystone is, I think, the worst thing on the Atlas tree. It's like beyond bait, especially in trade, considering the price of certain scarabs. Like,
I think it could be 50 passive points, and I still wouldn't take it.
Yeah, there's nothing because you're not. The thing is, like in Path, when you especially just Atlas strategies, it's always narrow and deep. It's not about how wide you go, right? So having those extra points really don't make a difference at that stage. Because you can't like, so I put my 30 points.
You could get all the travel nodes.
But for what? You could all the travel nodes are scarabs that can't drop.
Oh, true. In the middle of the scarab nodes, there are
scarab
scarabs.
Chance now, yeah.
I mean, most of the travel nodes
that makes no sense.
So it's like, I don't know what they could even put on it to make it actually usable, unless they put it at the bottom of the tree or at least more towards the middle. But the fact that it's at the top means you're already 30 points in to reach it, and at that point you want scarabs to be dropping, so it would have to be basically at the very beginning, but then it would almost be mandatory for the first little chunk, and then you just quickly drop out of it, so it would also be kind of shit. So I don't know what it could have to be good, but I don't think it's going to exist.
It should be what it used to be, what it replaced.
Stream of consciousness. Yeah,
it should be.
I have an alternative opinion here.
Yeah.
So I actually think that the node is good in one very particular circumstance and only one particular circumstance. And that is immediately at the start of the league if you are rushing through the Atlas. The moment that you get 50 points and you can go to the second one, it's not worth it anymore. But for the tree that I set up for getting the Keurig missions and getting Nico in particular, because I wanted Pact with Energy, for that tree, you're not spending 30 points of nothing to get it. You're spending 5 or 6 points of travel because you're already going in that direction anyways. So if you go up that direction, you get the points that you want. You get like the Nico chance, and you get like shrines and all those other things to just make a easy just leveling boost through the Atlas tree when you're like leveling up a character. You only miss a couple of points, and early on when you're leveling, I think a lot of people massively oversold how many scarabs drop in early maps. Like, it's 2 or 3 a map, maybe at most. There were people saying 8 to 10 scarabs a map, and I don't know how lucky these people got, but it was not 8 to 10 scarabs a map.
Well, if you keep reinvesting your scarabs, probably you also get more, right? Like, if you get the 3 and you put them in with the next map and so on,
that's the thing.
You snowball.
You drop the common scarabs, and you throw them in your map device. You don't put them away.
I did that, and it doesn't give you 8 to 10 scarabs every single map, or even worthwhile scarabs. Because like early on, you can't choose what scarabs you get, so you just get random ones, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
toss
you just
I
get
toss
random
them in.
stuff.
I toss them in the map device, and I don't know. I get like, what are some scarabs that I found? Like, area contains Nico. I'm already doing Nico. Rogue Exiles. Don't really care about Rogue Exiles early, or Einhar, or Abysses, or most of this stuff when I'm just trying to finish the Atlas, right? Like I'm just trying to get 115 out of 115, and that's all that I care about early. To do that, I think it's fine to go for some extra points early on and just omit the scarabs, right? That's my opinion on it, but
Well,
I care a lot
it
more about getting
also
the Atlas done early. So
on a second character, it might be good, right? Like if you wanted to do something and you already have scarabs, because Unwavering Vision only says scarabs cannot be found. It doesn't say that scarabs have no effect on your maps, right? You can use it with scarabs. It's just you can't generate scarabs with it. So there might be something there that you can do, but
well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Is like you can just have a tree for leveling up new characters. Like my initial tree for leveling up new characters that I've got is just strong boxes, shrines, Nico nodes, map drop chance, and Atlas reports and like Kira commissions, right? I just have all of those nodes. That's all that I took. I have the nodes that add a bunch of mobs around shrines, add a bunch of mobs around strong boxes, the Nico price of progress node that spawns shrines and spawns strong boxes every single time that you hit a Voltaxic vein, which then get doubled
I'm
and
dumb.
double effectiveness and all that kind of extra stuff. So you get all of that stuff all together, and you just zoom straight up through levels so super easily without really doing anything.
I need to correct myself. I had a brain fart moment and, like, for some reason omitted the line, maps cannot be modified by fragments. I knew it because I've had the same thinking mistake like 3 days ago. I just forgot to save that. So, yeah, Unwavering Vision, not with scarabs. I completely talked shit.
But yeah, like I said, you don't use it for very long, but I've got 3 Atlas trees already, and my second Atlas tree is my full Legion Atlas tree with scarabs and all that kind of good stuff. It's fine. But I mean, it's like an hour into mapping that you drop it. Like why not? Why would I not want to have Nico every single map for the first hour so I can be super overpowered and have 135 damage and 45% movement speed? Like why would I not want that? And Unwavering Vision lets me have it for that first hour. Seems good to me.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to try both, like progressing with it and progressing without it. I've progressed with it, and I thought it was okay, but like in retrospective, probably just a wasted Atlas tree. Could have directly gone for a different tree, and
I don't know. I heavily miss Wandering Path, if I'm going to be honest with you. After all of the testing and the stuff that I've done when I do like league starters and stuff, I really miss being able to consistently get 2 stones in like 7 hours. I super miss that because
it was just without competition. It was boring. Like if it's mandatory, if it's so much better than anything else that you could be doing for the progression.
I way prefer early progression on this tree because now I've got packed with energy on every node and multiple shrines in every map, and Nico dropping extra shrines on top of it. The amount of borrowed power you get on day one for so few points, just to have shrines impact with energy in every single map, makes like any build a demon. Like
I agree. I like it a lot, but it's definitely slower if you're trying to get to red tiers as fast as possible, regardless of you being faster or whatever. It's definitely like hours and hours and hours slower. And I guess the reason I don't like that is because 2 stone runs are one of the main things that I do to like test league starters. So I know that this league coming up, when I'm going to be doing a bunch of league start testing and doing 2 stone runs, it like exponentially increases the amount of time that I'm going to have to just sit there and test stuff. So I'm not super excited about that, but that's a very personal thing. So
Time to just do 1 stone runs.
I don't think that's going to fix anything.
the difference between a 1 stone run and a 2 stone run, though, is like fucking 8 minutes. Like,
Yeah,
I just wanted to say something funny.
like once you've got
you
1 stone, the other one's like right there.
Ultimately,
yeah, please finish your talk.
last thing. Ultimately, I do think the new Atlas tree is just better. And Wandering Path, obviously, I agree with you. Those are just my personal complaints, realistically. Like Wandering Path, if there's no decision, obviously, it's not the greatest idea. People were using it end game. People were using it early game. people are using it all the time, probably not good for the game long term.
So
That's fair.
I have one question. I don't know if this is bad. I don't know if this is bad or good. But has anyone noticed when trying to come up with their farming strategies that I can invest in 2 or 3 mechanics on my tree? But 1 or 2 of those mechanics are always going to be completely worthless and shouldn't be there because I can only scarab up 1 mechanic?
I guess it depends. Like, what mechanic are you doing? Because I think that's going to be like a very specific thing, most likely.
It might just be like an adjustment I have to make because I'm so used to doing, 2 or 3 mechanics at a time, and I still have
I know
the
what you're
points
saying.
to invest.
It's
But
I think it's a little even deeper than that, to where it's certain, like, the gap between mechanics at a top end scenario because of how certain scarabs interact with each other is actually like larger than ever, I think. And some scarab sets for some mechanics are so bad compared to others that, we're talking, mentioning Legionary, like a top end Legion scenario with scarab is like through the roof. And then you do the same thing and same level of investment for harvest, and it's like subterranean comparatively. So there's some mechanics just can't even remotely compete right now with scarabs.
Mhm.
And it's even worse when you think of the whole tier 17 problem, to where like you wouldn't, that's a whole other thing, which is like whatever. But yeah, like certain things, like, I actually initially thought, because you mentioned that, I initially thought, since some scarabs have limit 2, when I put them in the map device and they stacked individually, I thought, wait a second, maybe I misunderstood this. And you could, if it's a limit 2 thing, it just, each spot can have, as many scarabs as you could fit, basically. And that would have been way crazier. But
you
when you
thought the
put, like,
stack might use 2.
yeah, because the way, because when you put them in the map device, it defaults to that, right? So if I put in
That would be
4
cool.
Anarchy scarabs, it would be cool. And I don't know if it'd be like insane. It would just be worse. It would more exacerbate what we're discussing here, which is like, that would be even crazier for certain things, and other things would be dead. Because again, like certain things like harvest, the bread and butter scarab is spawns a harvest when you already have 100% harvest spawn chance, and you can't have 2 harvests. So what is even the point? Like things like that.
I definitely think there's like a pass that needs to be done on a lot of these, because a lot of those base scarabs are pretty rough.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reasonable thing that I could think of is that they're intending that you don't take those like chance points, but they're spread evenly throughout all of the stuff anyways. So you kind of feel like you have to take them. I think the strategies that'll probably end up cropping up is going to be, you invest heavily in the one mechanic that is obviously the best for whatever you're wanting to do. And then your like secondary or tertiary mechanics are ones that are kind of like like scarabs aren't needed for them, like masters, meaning that you don't really put too many on there, most likely, if you don't want them. Like Nico, for example, you don't need any scarabs for Nico. You use them to just go fast and have power, and that's it, right? That's all you want them for. And then like delirium mirrors, if you're doing short deliriums in whatever maps that you're doing, none of the scarabs are super impactful there. Like they're okay, but they're not insanely impactful. Like its area contains a mirror of delirium, which you can get, and reward meter fills faster, which for short delirium isn't a huge deal. So I think that'll probably be what a lot of people end up doing, if I had to guess.
I haven't had an issue filling the tree though. Like I haven't been doing split mechanics for anything, because I didn't. First off, every single tree I have has almost every single scarab node, and like that's like 40 points right there, because they just seem so crazy, and I want to always be dropping them. That I'm always defaulting to that. Almost every single tree is blocking every other mechanic I'm doing, so there's another chunk of points. Half the time I get every point of map explicit percentage scaling, because that's also insane. So I haven't really had a problem. Like my trees honestly look very similar, most of them, because they almost all are at both the breakers. They have both the blocks. They have all the scarab nodes, and that's just whatever the one thing I want to do. So I don't really know. I don't know if split investing is worth it, because again, like you kind of said, you only have scarab room for one thing. So
yeah, like for example,
like
with my Legion tree. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I built a tree that would like Legion and Breach. You can do Legion and Breach together on the tree really well. But I'm not. The Breach is a good farm too. But I need all my Scarab slots for that. Well, but if I'm going to use them on Legion, then I don't have them. So then I just like, oh, well, don't spec Breach then. Just leave
honestly,
that behind.
I'd be really leery, especially after last league, to do mechanics that spawn a high numerical count of physical occupation mechanics, because you can have things like 8 or 9 legions in a map, but that doesn't mean the map's going to spawn 8 or 9 legions, because of the physical layout of the map might not spawn that many, especially coming off of Affliction. There's countless scenarios where we've put on 5 Abyss and only gotten 3 Abyss. So for certain things like that, I would be like a bit crazy. I wouldn't go, 10 Breach, 5 Legions each map, because I doubt all 15 are going to spawn, just because of actual room. So I would think about it a little bit for that reason as well.
We need testing. We need proper endgame testing for all of these.
We are the testers. That's what it comes down to, essentially.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, we as the players need to have proper testing before we can ultimately conclude which ones are worth it, which ones are not, and like what are good strats, what are bad strats. It's a little bit early to tell, I think.
It's all worth it, Catmaster. It's all worth it.
I honestly don't mind the idea that you can heavily invest into one thing. I do feel a lot of the time that PoE, especially like the base game, can get pretty bloated sometimes. Like, there's just so many things for you to do at one time, and packing so many things into your map. Like, I don't know. I think maybe not for very experienced players who have been playing this game for what, 10 fucking years now or something like that. Like, sure, we're used to it. We're used to the just information overload being forced into our brains. But for like the general populace, I'm pretty sure they're probably not upset that they can be like, oh, Legion sounds like a good mechanic. Let me just do Legion. And that being perfectly fine, get the Scarab nodes, get the Legion nodes, use the Legion Scarabs, and you're happy, right? Just don't worry about anything else, and it can be viable, right? I think that that's fine.
Yeah, I honestly don't have any like super huge opinion there, but Balor said the word borrowed power a while ago in regards to the Nico and the shrines from the Atlas. And that reminded me of a topic that I completely skipped earlier in regards to the League, which is something that I felt, and I don't know whether it vibes with you, so I'm just gonna say it. I feel like the loot has a problem in terms of identity. The League doesn't have its own identity loot. The only thing that you really get are these all-flame embers that you can then reinvest into your maps that can give you rewards from other loots, like the tattoos and stuff, other leagues. But the League doesn't have really its own identity in terms of rewards, other than the crafting mechanic, which is its own set of shoes. But there's no like kind of, how we've always been getting huge power creep, and then they turned it into borrowed power, and then this League there's just no power.
I mean, I think it's a fair assessment. I think that was what the crafting was meant to be. The crafting is just garbage. So it's like we basically didn't get that aspect of it. But I mean, what we're working on looks to fix maybe some of it. I honestly genuinely don't know that this is going to make the crafting good, but it definitely is going to be significantly better than what it is now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the crafting is going to fill that void. You're right.
I have seen some pretty gross stuff actually crafted. I don't think it's good for everything, but there's definitely some things you can craft really good stuff with. It's just that it takes you, 150 maps to collect all the corpses you need, and you've got to read every single corpse, get all the right ones, and plant the whole area. It's like a not accessible thing. It's not that it's like can never make a good item. It can make some items very well. It just,
you don't like spreadsheet League mechanic crafting?
No.
You don't like Old Harvest, where we all went on Reddit just like Chris said that we would, and found the exact list of items that we would put down in the exact list of order, and that's very interactive and fun? You don't like that?
No.
Surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be negative about it, but it kind of just goes back to that whole like the how can you not see that this is a problem? Like it's just such a blatant, obvious, like, wow, my first opinion of this is that it's horrible, and here's how you could fix it, and then that's how they fix it 2 days later. So it's like, it has to be a dev issue. Like it has to be they don't have time to get this done. Because I know the people at GGG are intelligent and good at their jobs, and they know what they're doing. It's obvious that that's the case. Whenever you see anybody from GGG talk, they obviously know what they're doing. Mark is insanely impressive, and I'm so happy that he's like the front man now. It's so nice seeing Mark up front. But
that was great.
It has to be IRL problems, right? Like it just has to be. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, so to add to Balor's point, like, yeah, there's definitely been good items made with the league mechanic. This is a Val regalia that was posted on the Reddit a couple of hours ago by Ziggy D, that he made with the grave crafting mechanic. And that's obviously one of the more lucky outcomes. This I read somewhere, I think in the comments he said it totals around 690 ES.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, right away when I saw the crafting mechanic, I thought, like, for example, ES items are going to be really good to make with this at the top end. But as other people pointed out before me, is like, yeah, at the top end, when you like really get everything together, all the top tier mods, you collected them and put them into the graves, you really filled out the graveyard, and you're doing one big craft, then you get potentially really good outcomes. But at the mid tier and in the low tier, there's almost nothing that you can get from it. So that would be cool if there was like a little bit more juice in the mid tier. But yeah, my larger point with the borrowed power was just that there's no some such thing as charms or relics or like anything that, you know, like the Wildwood Ascendancies last league, where the league just hands you something that you have for this league that will likely not go core, but that makes this league super interesting and engaging to play.
See, I feel the opposite, because when I look at that chess piece, I'm like, wow, that's really kind of a mediocre chess piece.
I was going to say that too earlier.
It's just like ES and nothing else. It like makes me think that it's just such a worthless chess piece. Like, what am I ever going to use that for? Like, I could use the prefixes and then maybe like redo the suffixes with something, but
if
like,
that's,
you spend
if
all
that's
that
the top end
time.
scenario, that's a low ceiling. That's
I don't know if I'm just like heavy crafting trade brained or something, but I just see that chess piece and I'm like, man, that's a good chess piece 6 years ago.
You might have missed that it has no attribute requirements, so you could just use this on like a character.
You're already using it on an in character, so that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
That's a dead stat.
It'll be fine.
That's a great week one item, and it was made week one. But if this is the upper echelon of what was possible, again, none of this conversation fucking matters because it all just got changed retroactively, effectively an hour ago. But
I know, it's like,
yeah, I mean, you mentioned about what the big takeaways from the league potentially. I think there's two things that you haven't mentioned. Number one is the haunted modifiers. I have no idea how to get them. I've seen some of them. They seem quite strong, especially on like adding attack values. I saw someone had like 80 flat chaos on a glove earlier. That seems quite ridiculous for a glove stat. So haunted modifiers could be a thing. Second thing, I think a large part of this, which they mentioned and showcased, is the unique jewel and modifying that. Now, is it going to be that which was taken? Fuck no. That's not going to be remotely that strong. I can't even imagine it could be that strong. We've seen they showed minor stat adjustments, and that's going to be a unique jewel. This game is heavily about unique jewels in the end game, especially for most builds. So that is one extra little bump of power. And we know how to make them roughly. We use the named corpses, combine them in certain configurations, and we get certain values. So I think that's going to be a part of it. But what you're referring to, like borrowed power, there is none up front for sure. It's just all going to be, as of right now, at least, it's middle and back end in an unknown amount. But there is nothing up front from the league mechanic. However, that might literally change if we like were to re-roll after this new patch. It might have felt like a totally different league on launch for leveling. We may have been making +1 wands early on. We may have been making great tri-res items. So it's like an impossible kind of shoe to fill because the ship has sailed. Like we're never going to relive the 3 days ago with the new patch. So maybe it will feel great. Maybe I'll make a new account and I'll just see what it was like. You know. But
just for
aside from that, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna get the same vibe. Like it could be super cracked for like like early ritual type. You hit a window and there's 3 upgrades type thing. You know, it could be like that.
Yeah, like gauntlet strategies, because we're all super interested in those, right? I know.
Some of them are. They're out there. There's dozens of them.
Dozens, yes.
All
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Borrowed power has been a thing that they've been doing for quite a few leagues now, and this is the first one that we haven't really gotten very much, because we've had a lot of borrowed power for quite a while now, and the only borrowed power we're kind of getting back is tattoos, and
They're pretty neutered.
I'm personally pretty upset about tattoos in particular because of one tattoo, but I don't know about you guys, but I kind of wanted to use some journey tattoos of the body, and it seems like they don't exist. There's none on trade.
Which ones are those?
The journey tattoos are the ones you put on the 30 stats that give you, like, if you have more of them, you get like more life, more mana, more
Right.
energy shield, I think it is. They just don't exist right now. So I don't know if that's bugged.
I mean,
If
when
they're just that rare.
the last couple times they've introduced a mechanic like this was like when Omens came in, and it came in beyond flaccid, and I think it's gonna be the exact same thing for tattoos, where there's a couple really good ones, I think, like CDR ones and Chaos Res ones. Those I think are still really high value, especially in conjunction with like certain timeless tools to reduce your stat requirements, etc. But overall, I think that tattoos are gonna they're gonna feel so much worse than they were in Total League, obviously. Maybe next league they'll be better, but this is just the beginning iteration, so I wouldn't expect a whole lot.
I do miss the +4 all stat, just being able to change any stat into like the 4 all, so that I could like fix stat requirements in my build. I miss that.
That's basically just Path 2 though, because they have that whole thing with the allocating a stat and picking which one you want. So tattoos always kind of felt like PoE2 stuff to me when they implemented them.
I personally just miss the fact that there was one type of tattoo that just completely enabled an archetype, and now it's gone. And that's life reservation efficiency tattoos.
I mean, that's Path of Exile. Every league builds get brought out back. It's like
it just makes me sad though. Like there was like 3 builds that use that, and because aura stackers are, have to ruin everything for us, they have to remove things.
It's a good thing that there's about 1,000 builds in the game. Then you could play something different. You got to move with the times. I've been playing Path of Exile in general. If you try to be staunch and fight the tides, you will lose. It is a battle of attrition. You will lose. You can keep playing the same build you've liked over 10 years. It won't be the same every patch, every year. It'll always change. I mean, there's a reason you have to literally play new things based off of what's good, what's new, or face the consequences. So in this scenario, the consequences are the tattoos are gone for what you're describing. There's probably something else out there, but
I only got one patch to even mess with a mechanic that's
honestly,
been in the game since
that's more than
day
most
one.
people get. Most people get 1 week, so it's like just you gotta roll with it.
I expected them to, at the very least, take the Warlock node and just put that on top of where Blood Magic is. I was fully expecting that because like 3 builds have used Blood Magic in the last ever. Like it's just not a used node anymore. So I don't know. I was a little upset about that.
That actually probably would have been okay to do, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like anybody even cared about the Warlock node. Like what Rue
you should
made
hold
one
out
build
hope anyway, because anytime
Maybe.
they add stuff like that, it's usually with a league break.
Yeah,
Right?
maybe. Well, hopefully, we'll see.
In the interim, there's no shortage of builds to play. We're off the back end of the trans leagues, the trans gems being added to all the the league of all those gems. There's new ones this league. It's like 120 gems they added. So there's 120 builds out there, and then some.
Yep.
All of which are good. There are you can make pretty much anything work, bar like conversion trap. So you're good to go.
And they, of course, had to neuter my favorite one, of course. But Penance Brand
Well,
of Dissipation survived because that was necessary.
Survive. It lost 60% damage, but it's still fine.
Serviceable.
Yeah,
it still works, but Kinetic Bolt of Fragmentation lost over 80% of its damage and isn't even an ability anymore.
that's still work. People are in the 90s on that build right now. It still works fine, even after all the damage lost.
Kinetic Bolt of Fragmentation? No, that ability is mostly dead.
Well, let's check right now. It's a good thing PoE Ninja exists.
You can play it, but why would you?
Well, there are about 10 10, 15 people above 90 playing it right now. So it's definitely viable.
I don't know if I'd call above 90 viable. I mean, you could play it, sure, but these days,
why would you? It's a video game to have fun. They like it the same way that you might still play the same build despite your tattoos being gone. Even if it gets nerfed, you can still enjoy yourself.
I can't play that build though because it functioned because of the tattoos and now they're gone. So no, I can't play that build.
Well, I'm sure there's something else out there.
There's always something else.
Always,
guys. In the spirit of helping them to improve the quality of life, I know that the entire Mark interview was very much in the tone of we're ready to reevaluate old decisions, old stuff that we're holding on to, yeah. And if there's some things, I have 2 notes that I want to suggest, and one of them is hear me out. Would it be technically possible to allow, in some sort of way, either via currency or rare occurrence, something sort of things, to have a vendor spawn in your maps? That you would be able to sell like a whole bunch of 6 sockets of stuff that you want to vendor to, you could sell that to him, and then he would disappear after the inventory. Otherwise, of course, there'd be the exploit that you bring everything in the map to that vendor. But this old design decision of we have 6 portals into a map, and the maximum loot that you can bring out is 6 full inventories. But no one is ever using multiple portals to bring out loot. Certainly not the 6. Maybe sometimes you pour it out because you have a full inventory and there's something else you want to pick up. That's the rare exception. But you're never ever getting to that limit. So like having like a special portal scroll that's super rare, or like a, random like NPC event that allows you to vendor something, would that be a problem in the game? I mean, I'm not saying it's a needed addition, but they always like to do various things, like stuff that can happen that adds variance to your maps.
The answer is no, I guess.
Yeah, didn't they say that that's like heavily against what they want? Because the idea is that they wouldn't even give us a backpack. Like they already got rid of the rucksack at this point. So I mean, the ability to do even more than that, I don't think that'll ever happen. That goes like against like PoE like step 1 essentially.
Yeah. Also, I don't think you want it, at least from a trade player look. Like you should have a stricter loot filter. You just shouldn't be filling up your inventory. If I had infinite
I'm in a private league. I need those jewelers.
One portal per map.
I don't think it's a problem. I think your idea is fine. It's just I don't think they're gonna do it, but I think I don't think it wouldn't break anything. I mean,
yeah, it's just a thought that I had.
Just
you could do so much to this game, and it wouldn't break it. They're not for nothing, but they're just like beyond light-handed when it comes to changes. They could do drastic things, and it would equal itself out. It always does. Everything that people complain about almost always equal themselves out. Even in the grossness, the gluttony of affliction league, the economy equaled itself out effectively when it come to like what was valued where. So
yeah,
it literally like
good.
Every time they say, "Oh, we don't want to do this because it's going to impact whatever," like that should be, in my opinion, the last thing on their mind is how anything is going to ever impact the economy, because it is a living, breathing thing that will just react to what happens. So, no, I don't think your problem's a problem at all. I think it's a perfectly acceptable idea. I just don't think they're going to do it.
Isn't that the opposite of what Chris has always said? Didn't he say that the economy is the #1 most important thing, and like the sanctity of it is the most important thing? I mean, did you see what just happened to last epoch?
To answer the first question, I don't think Chris is even fucking involved anymore. And the second question, no, I didn't.
There was a server, I think there was like a client-side issue in last epoch where someone figured out how to just get maximum gold at any time, and it just inflated the economy to the point where every single item on the trade thing was maximum number, and then they patched it, so now just the entire market is just completely destroyed, and anybody who didn't get on it is essentially just—
Are you describing a
can't
bug
play the game
or an exploit?
Yeah, it was an exploit that
That's
happened where
though.
that thing
that's
happened,
not what we're talking about,
because that's just a bug.
Yeah,
but it's talking about like the sanctity of the economy. You said it can adjust to anything, but I mean, if something drastic happens, like bugs happen in PoE all the time. We just don't hear about them as much.
Right, but if Path had a bug as catastrophic as that, it would also cause as catastrophic as an issue. But we're discussing any sort of thoughtful implementation or even idea or balance pass, not what would happen if hypothetically a bug occurred that ruined the game, because that could apply to anything anywhere.
It's a very big difference between I've changed the economy in this way because this is happening now, and these individual people have a literal infinite amount of mirrors and divines just that they can pull out of their
better
stash
example,
at any point, right?
Yeah. So, for example, if they made maps not tradable, right, that's like a drastic change, and they wouldn't. How would that impact the economy? It would, but would it break the economy? Not at all. Like that would be reboundable. That's probably a bigger change than they've ever done, something to that scale. Or like, there's things like that they could do. But when it comes to the land of exploits and bugs, that's the discussion's kind of fruitless because it could just happen. You can't
I got
plan
one
for
more
a
that I want to
catastrophic
bring up.
exploit.
I got one more I want to bring up, and I'm sure you're gonna agree on that with all of us. I think it just needs to be brought up repeatedly so that that's in the awareness of the community, and hopefully will at some point be relayed to Mark via one of those bingo cards. And that is, why are heist quest contracts still locked to the inventory? This is such an ancient.
Because no one cares about heist. I think I'm the only person who cares about heist at this point.
That's absolutely not true.
I am the heist guy. I literally am like the last content creator that makes heist builds and makes heist content. No one gives a shit about heist.
No.
Not a single person. Like, they don't. They really genuinely
I have a guy in my Discord
cares.
that's between Balor's and my communities and a bunch of others who made an entire video heist guide for this league. It's just under the radar.
Yeah, it's just...
I think the real answer is just...
mechanic.
I just think it's not a very high priority. That's just
what I wanted to say is like
issue at best.
Yeah, but like Zibi points out in chat right now, what quest item in the game is not tied to the inventory? I can't think of one. But with the heist quest contracts is an artificial obstruction because you can already go and store them in your crafting bench, and you can already trade them between characters via the menagerie. And you just go into the menagerie, drop them on the ground, log to another character, go into the menagerie, pick them up. So it is already possible to store them outside of your inventory, and it is already possible to trade them between your characters. It just requires extra steps, so why not make it official and give it official heist locker support? Put them in the heist locker, maybe give a warning that, these are per character, or or what you could also do is you could bring them to the NPC and they could store them for you, similar to, like, as a dialogue option, similar to how Kerak stores your Voidstones after you acquired them, so you don't need to pick them up.
Those are all good ideas. I think the real answer is probably going to be because they most likely have something planned for heist that makes this change irrelevant. That's just down the line, and they're not going to do it until that change, or it's just such a low priority it doesn't really matter. The impact of it's negligible. There's tons of people who do heist, and you just run it, and it's not a big deal. But like hypothetically, we'll say a year from now, they just remove the entire rogue system from heist and just make it much more streamlined. Then the quest contracts will be moot, right? So it most likely it's just they have a fix or solve down the road, and this would just be a redundancy to make a new system for it now.
Okay, I've got a real question. Did you have something else, Balor, about that?
That sounds like such a non-issue. Like it's so far down the problem of issues that. Like it's just so far. There's like 15 tiers of more important problems.
I agree, but Path of Exile is a game where people like to stick to their niches. So if for someone who has been doing heist like religiously, it might be obviously that's more of an important thing to them. But overall for the game, I don't think it's like you're saying. I don't think it's that high priority.
Yeah, it's just very super low priority. Like I said, like I am the heist guy when it comes to content creation, and I promise you, the entire comment section on every single video is like, haha, heist? Nope. Literally 95% of the comment section, every single video. Haha, that's funny. Heist? Yep. No, sorry.
Might just be the specific subsection of the community that tends to interact more with your content than, not sure how representative of is that subsection of the community as a whole.
Bit of
But
a
I do
bubble,
agree with you
yeah.
guys. It's not a high priority problem. It's just something that to me stands out because in group found I had to engage with Heist this league again, and after not having engaged with it for a while, it just directly sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's like it makes sense for me, right, to bring that up. I do understand it might not be as easy a fix as it seems to me, and it might be a waste of time if you know internal stuff, like stuff they planned for the future, or other changes that make this one obsolete. But to me, it seems like a rather easy fix, and like these things, like I said, storing and transferring them are already possible, and it just adds needless obscurity. But yeah, I didn't want to talk about this at length. You guys have surely other things that you want to bring up that that are in need of a rework or something that
Yeah, the one that I was talking
change.
about before. What do you guys think the actual chance is? Mark said it's a tier 1 issue, meaning the second highest.
Okay,
What do you
which
actually
one?
think? What do you think the chances that Melee actually genuinely gets any kind of love and not just nerfed 3 times in one patch?
So I think the big fix to Melee is PoE 2, and PoE 2 is a different game than PoE 1, so we have to expect a different solution in PoE 1 now to the Melee problem. I think in
But it's
PoE
still
2,
not
Melee
fixed
will be
there.
fine and fun.
They still said it's bad though. The devs themselves have said that PoE 2 didn't fix Melee.
Well,
the
the
players
game's not
said that
out yet,
PoE 2 didn't fix Melee.
It's
Well,
not
I'm saying
done
like
yet.
I'm saying their idea for it. Like it's been years at this point of them remaking it from the ground up, and they still said that it's not fixed. They still said it feels horrible.
Yeah,
Like
well,
almost
I would
everybody
just
that played
wait till you
Melee.
probably play it yourself, in a year from now or whatever, if it comes out then.
Look, if people keep
I mean,
doing
that's such
this,
a non-answer though. Like
people keep bringing sticks to gunfights and then complaining to GGG that their stick isn't as strong as a gun. It's always going to be shitter. It's Melee. It's always going to be. There is no solution to that.
Says the
that
guy
feels like such a
peddling a
cop-out.
Molten Strike starter.
I don't know. I think that the real issue with balancing Melee in a game like Path of Exile is born from the modular nature of Path of Exile compared to other ARPGs. They tried to resolve it initially by adding things like Fortify, because you have in other ARPGs, Melee strict classes will have innately like 30% less damage taken
Yes.
because it's implied that they're always in melee distance, therefore they're at a disadvantage. So the issue in Path is that any sort of inherent advantage that's added or intended to be added towards melee will always get abused by non-melee builds. Therefore, it's balanced around that edge case scenario. This was represented most recently, I would say, with like the unrelenting strike threshold situation that occurred during that league, where you'd have many builds were just having a every 30 seconds push a button to get fortify, and then it was like, well, that was the whole point. Was this supposed to be for melee, and it's not. So what's the resolution? There could be some sort of like scenario or keystone that checks if you've meleeed in X amount of time, give yourself some sort of buff. That could be an inherent feature. Will it still be abused? Probably, but I think there's resolutions to be had there that are kind of in the same regard as Fortify. Fortify is as close as we get. I don't think melee is bad in any regard. Like, it's perfectly fine. People play melee in the most drastic hardcore scenarios to level 100 within a week of league start, regardless of league, consistently. So clearly it's not bad in that respect. It's probably just more that the kind of habits of melee are very unhealthy at the moment, whether it's the totem meta or the levels of defense they're having to adopt.
Can we really say that something is okay because some absolute fiend is like torturing himself to play melee to level 100 in hardcore solo self-found? I don't feel like that's a good argument for saying melee is okay. Like I feel like that's the opposite. I feel like that makes me think that melee is even worse than I think it is.
If it was one person, that would maybe be valid, but it's like there's hundreds, thousands each league that play melee consistently. People just enjoy the play style, and they are able to clear all content with melee, and they have no issues. So I've done it myself multiple leagues in a row. Is it worse than playing a range build of equal investment? In many cases, yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the play style or the build is unplayable or can't have, can't be fun derived from it.
I mean, if we just like eternally say, well, it's good enough and just like dodge the meaning of the question, I don't think anything really gets solved though, does it? Because like saying that just dodges the question completely. It's like, well, people can make a do with it, so it's okay, right? It doesn't matter. I don't really, I don't really
It's a
feel
nothing
that
answer,
does
right?
anything.
That's a nothing answer because almost every skill in the game is good enough. You can invest
People
and
have
make
beat Ubers
anything
with
work.
default attack. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, does that mean it's good enough? I don't know. I just think that Melee's in a really, really bad spot from almost every angle. And it just makes me wonder, like, if it's a tier 1 issue, is it actually going to get fixed? They've been saying it for. They said PoE2 would fix it. PoE2 hasn't fixed it yet. So I don't know. I just wonder if we'll ever actually get Melee.
The totems thing is the only thing that I can think of to make it better, really, is getting rid of the need for totems, because like there are games in which melee can keep up with ranged and casters. Games like Diablo can be balanced around that because you get a melee class. Other game genres like Dota and League of Legends can be balanced around that, where you can have melee classes that are good because this character is melee, and so I can balance it around melee. But when you have something like PoE where anything can be anything, then everything has to be balanced around everything, and it just comes down to bringing a stick to a gunfight. There's no world where you make them good enough. There just isn't.
I think it depends on your definition of good enough. Again, like, so if it's an issue of survivability, then it's definitely going to be an innate disadvantage because you're in melee range. If it's just a offensive numerical thing, you could just adjust the nodes on the tree. I mean, there's things where it's like increased damage with 2 hands melee skills that could only be used with 2-hand melee skills. You could just make them doubled, or whatever, and see how that feels for a patch. So there's no shortage of things they could do. Whether they could do it next league, it's possible. Mark said it's a tier 1 priority. I trust him to probably do it within the next league or so. I don't know if the change will be acceptable for you guys, but I'm sure the people who, when's the last time you guys played Melee, or have you played
Legion.
Melee frequently?
Last
right.
league.
What I don't understand then is, if you don't play Melee habitually, why do you care?
I've played it almost every league.
I've
played it almost every league.
I loved it in Legion because it got full screen AoE.
I've played a Melee guild every league for the past ever, and I've never had a real problem or complaint. So I don't know. It just seems like it definitely feels worse than like top end builds, but there's like Bone Shatter is perfectly fine. Reeve is perfectly fine. There's plenty of melee skills that feel fine.
I'm just not going to comment on that one.
Those are extreme outliers. Those are the top end of the skills there. But
the Bone Shatter guy quit Bone Shatter this league.
Right? Actually, just quit. This was like not.
So I mean, it basically what I'm trying to say is just that as someone who consistently plays melee, and like last league, I played a melee strike build. Molten Strike of the Zenith is what I played last league, and I managed to get the build to do something great for 20 times the cost of most other builds, and it could only do maybe 1/10 of the content that those builds were able to do, right? And that's okay. I mean, sure, I was able to do a decent amount of stuff, but it's just like we've been hearing melee will be fixed for just so long, and it is just slightly frustrating that, and not even saying that they're not doing it because they don't want to, but it feels like there just doesn't seem to be an answer to how do you fix melee in a game like this. I don't know how you do it. I've like thought about this on stream and spent like hours thinking it. I genuinely can't come up with a way to actually fix it, and it just kind of makes me sad. So like when I say like, what do you think the chances of it are? I just if anybody can do it, it's GGG, but I just don't know that it can be done. I don't know that you can genuinely fix melee.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But in response to what Lighty says, like, why would you care? I just quickly wanted to interject that, I mean, obviously in a game about choices, you care about like different choices being similar in outcome, right? That any choice that you could make, you could bring to a satisfying conclusion, even if that's not the favorite choice that you would play, right? And in regards to actual like suggestions, what you could do, I guess like kind of the chance would have been to allow attacking while moving for melee and PoE 2 and not allowing it for range, like having to stand still. Maybe that would have given it a little bit of an edge. If, but yeah, if they both can attack while moving, it's going to be hard in PoE 2. I do trust that they have some great plans for PoE 2 though, in regards to making melee feel great and fun and actually viable as a competition to range characters and spellcasters to play.
And there was a guy in chat saying people don't want melee to be fixed; they want melee to be intrinsically better than range. I don't actually agree with that at all. The problem is that melee is right now, for the vast majority of content that's available in PoE, melee is maybe, I'm going to be generous here and say 25% as good as just being a ranged character most of the time. Like, at best, I would be happy if it was like 50 to 60% as good, right? Like, I don't know what they have to do. Bake the totem effect into all of the melee skills and then just make the totems do something else, or even if it's a band-aid at this point, I just feel like we need something. Like, why do melee skills have 70% attack speed built into them from the start? Like why? What's the point? It doesn't make sense to me. They're doing it to range skills now too, by the way. If you haven't seen Tornado Shot and stuff,
I've noticed.
they're putting attack speeds on range skills too, and I'm just like, oh, that's the worst thing they could possibly do.
That's, instead of nerfing it, you're literally making it feel worse.
Yeah.
Give me less numbers, don't give me less attack speed.
I don't know. I think for PoE 2 it kind of works, but like currently in PoE 1, that's the only way to overcome the limitations. Like, that's why everyone wants to scale that much attack speed. In PoE 2, we're gonna be a lot finer with like slower attacks because we'll actually be able to use them while we're moving. So,
okay. This could just be a me thing, but
Probably.
I'd be happy if I never heard the sentence PoE 2 for the next 6 months.
I would have agreed with you maybe 2 or 3 months ago, but I have some like renewed hype for PoE 2 since the latest round of videos and stuff came out for it. I actually have a little bit. I've been on the PoE 2 Doom train for a while, but I have a little bit more hype for PoE 2 now after seeing the latest rounds of videos. So
But that's
I'm
the
feeling
thing.
a
I'm
little
not on
better.
the Doom train. I'm real excited about it. I think it's good, but the most recent stuff said, by the way, it's still over a year away, and I can't maintain an erection for that long, so I don't need to hear about it anymore. Tell me when we get close. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair.
I am excited about it. It's too far away. It doesn't matter right now.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely fair. I mean, I guess that's another thing to talk about is that I'm personally kind of glad. Oh, someone wants to buy an item from me. I'm personally kind of glad that they delayed it a little bit, because did you hear how we're so lucky to have people who genuinely like Path of Exile being at the helm of it, and I appreciate that fact basically every single day, because like when I was listening to Jonathan talk about how much they were like, when he was like upset that they had to delay it, but he was just like, but we found this thing that fundamentally fixed the game so much. Like I'm fine with that, honestly. Like it's okay. As much as it sucks, the latest round of stuff that I've seen makes me feel so much more hype from the game than anything I had before. So I mean,
I'm fine with it
is
too.
what it is.
I want them to delay it as much as they want until they're really happy with it.
You just don't want to hear about it.
I just don't want to hear about it, and I don't want it to be like, oh, PoE 2 will fix this, PoE 2 will fix. I don't care. It's like a year away. Like when we're close, I'm going to get real excited about it again. It looks great. I love the direction. I'm super happy that they're taking extra time whenever they feel like they need to take extra time. I'm happy about all of that. It's still a year away. I've already been edging for like what, 3.5 years. Like, I come back to me when it's close. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. It doesn't mean anything to me right now.
Do you think they split up PoE 1 and PoE 2 so they'd stop hearing people say PoE 2 will fix it? Do you think it was a personal issue of theirs?
Well, that doesn't make the problem better, because the people in PoE 1 still want a fix for all those issues, but now they don't have that, carrot on the end of the stick that is PoE 2. Is like, well, now all these problems that we have in PoE 1 need to be fixed within PoE 1, which is why I always bring up PoE 2 in these conversations, is to make clear that the solution in PoE 2, while it may exist, it's A, far away, and B, is not the solution that we're going to be working with in PoE 1, and these problems need to be addressed in PoE 1 as well.
I think they're finally getting there, at the very least.
It feels like saying, well, how they fix that in League of Legends is this way, but that doesn't apply to us. Like, it's just irrelevant anymore. Like, it's a different game and it's not out and it doesn't matter. That's how it feels to me.
I mean,
maybe I'm extreme on it.
I might have agreed with you before, but I think that ever since Mark has kind of taken the front stage with the whole like explaining stuff, Mark is a lot better at explaining stuff than I ever realized that he was until he actually started being in the front. I know I'm basically just glazing Mark here over and over again, but I really enjoy his perspective on a lot of things. But interestingly enough, for the longest time I thought PoE 2 was just going to be basically like Ruthless Waiting Room. Like, I thought that it was just going to be what Ruthless is now, and I thought it was going to be terrible. But I mean, I do think they've learned a decent amount of stuff, and I hope some of it comes over to PoE 1, but at this point, I have this like sinking feeling in the back of my head that PoE 2 is going to be such a successful game that I know they said they're going to maintain support for PoE 1, but I do worry that eventually it's going to become so eclipsed that we won't have this game anymore, and we're just going to have PoE 2. Like, PoE 1 it already feels like we don't get as much as we used to. How long has it been since we got like a big change, like an end game patch with like big new story type stuff? When's the last time we got that?
This league.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't the tier 17s like relatively new endgame stuff?
Did we get story based stuff?
If you want lore, go read a fucking book. I mean, I'm here to play a game, man. Like, there's tons of content to do. I don't know, like, what the point of like doom sowing over this is. It's like there's no shortage of fun shit to do in Path right now.
I'm not really doom sowing. That's kind of a misconstruction of what I'm saying. I'm saying that it doesn't feel like we've gotten, like, this patch we got the new Atlas rework, which is pretty good, but the last time we got something like Eater Exarch or some kind of
what
new...
you mean.
Go ahead.
Specifically, this was addressed at the open air Q&A in Cologne last year for the Gamescom. Chris specifically addressed that point and said, guys, we've had the timeline for PoE 2 shift a little bit. And, when at the time we announced PoE 2, we said there's not going to be any new endgame expansions for Path of Exile 1 anymore. We didn't anticipate that it was going to take that long, right? And he did say that we're kind of due for another endgame expansion in Path of Exile 1 before Path of Exile 2. So
it feels pretty expansive.
Make of that
right
what you
now.
will, but that was the words being said.
Like 3 Atlas pages, Atlas rework, scarabs, new endgame content, new uniques, Uber bosses shift to drop tables, trans gems. Feels like enough to me. Like, all that stuff is endgame. It's all endgame stuff. You're playing it in the endgame.
But realistically, out of that, the only thing that's new is tier 17s, right? That's realistically all we got. Like, the Atlas has changed, but not fundamentally. Like, there's some niceties about it, and there's new stuff to do, and I like it. There's a lot of quality of life and a lot of cool things. Like, the new Atlas trees are great. Like, I love the fact that we have 2 or 3 Atlas trees. That's awesome. But it's more so like refining stuff that we already had instead of it feeling like we're getting something big and new with like effort put into it, right?
I'm with BigDucks. Like, it's a great rework. The endgame it's a rework. Like it's a altering the systems and making them a lot better. It's great. I love it. It's not a new patch. It's not like a new end game, right? We got tier 17 maps. That's it.
I haven't seen the tier 17s. They said that they're all new tile sets. Are they all new tile sets? Yeah, but the question is like how many new assets are there? Are like actual new tile sets, actual new mob types, new animations, new 3D models? The bosses are reused content, right? In a good way. Not to talk it down. I'm just saying like this is how I would distinguish this from an actual endgame expansion, which is that would be bringing in completely new material, right?
From what I heard, a lot of people said that the tier 17 maps feel like Unity asset giant zones with not very much in them is what I've heard. But I haven't been in them because they're horrifically overtuned right now, so I can't tell, but that's the vibe that I've gotten.
From what I've seen so far, they're maybe not quite as packed with mobs as tier 16 maps are, but they're much larger and the packs are way more difficult. So it's supposed to be, I think, this is a smaller group of mobs, but it will be much harder to fight. And then the place is like twice the size, so the amount of mobs you get in the zone is still pretty good, even though each individual pack is smaller. But I haven't been able to actually finish one yet because they've been very hard.
Yeah, I'm wondering when they're going to allow us to roll them, because some of the mods on those maps are absolutely insane. Like what's the really bad one? The Unity, what is it of Souls? The one where every single mob in the entire map is in one Unity, and there's just no escaping anything. They just become like these giant monsters that fill up half your screen. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the mods seem really rough.
But that is the design idea, was that these maps do pose a challenge, and each of them is kind of an individual challenge that you might need to change your build for or accommodate it in another way. Yeah. How frequent are the scarabs that allow you to ignore suffixes or prefixes on those maps? Are they common enough to realistically be able to use them?
One yet?
I haven't seen one. Was there any numbers from the veiled scarabs that we saw? I don't know how common they would be realistically.
Not common, but you probably would just make your build better, or just do better when you're doing them, or just do a different map, since you could just do any other tier 17. Like it'd be more economical.
I mean, most likely. I mean, I agree to a certain extent there.
Day 4 league, the do end game content will be a little. It should be pretty rippy.
More so, what I was getting at is people in like standard builds with lots of gear are having difficulty doing them. Is the issue?
I mean, you can already just get carries. Like there are people in League Day 3 just able to chain them back to back, so they can definitely be done.
There's always going to be some, yeah. I mean, there's always going to be that guy.
I'm excited that my quite strong Poison SRS build couldn't do them on Day 3, because that means I've got a reason to get even more powerful. So I love that. I'm here for it. I want them to be that hard. I want to have a reason to keep gearing up and keep getting better. It's fantastic.
If Ben can't do them, we can talk. Ben actually tweeted, I think, yesterday that said that he had a character that was ready to do Ubers and he couldn't do tier 17. So, I mean, just saying.
Well, at least in trade, the Horned Scarab of Tradition, that's the correct one, right? That gives you access to the... No, that's the wrong one. Never mind. Is it not? I thought I saw it for... Oh, okay, no. I'm dumb. Awakening is the one that allows the imbued crafting options.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of new and interesting stuff to be able to do with the league, but my whole point is just that I've noticed a very sharp decline in the full featured content, I guess you could call it. I don't know the right adjective to use to describe it, but like we've been getting some pretty interesting stuff, but like the Transfigured Gems I think were excellent. I think that's something that we've been wanting for a very long time. And I do think that was like a big part of why last league was so popular, is because we just got 100+ new skills to play with, and it was really cool, and we explored a whole bunch of stuff. But I mean, it hasn't felt like we've gotten that, like I said, I can't think of the word, but it doesn't feel like we've gotten that, like, 3.17, like what we got in that kind of patch that we used to get one every year. It's been like almost 2 years now since we've gotten something like that. So it's kind of it's just kind of sad, I guess, for me.
Well, I'm sure they'll, now that we know that PoE 2 and PoE 1 are separate games, once PoE 2 is done, there was going to be a lot of asset production, you know, textures, 3D models and stuff like that they can then put into PoE 1, I guess. But right now they're probably putting everything they have in terms of resources of producing new assets into PoE 2.
Yeah, because I remember one particular thing in one of the interviews that I think it was Jonathan that said is that they want to do for PoE 2, they want to make yearly big in-game expansions for PoE 2 the same way that they do for PoE 1 was the wording that he used. So it makes me think that they want to. It's just strange when he said they want to do them every year like they do for PoE 1, but we haven't really gotten those. So I'm hopeful. Like, I like the base game. I think the base game of PoE 1 is probably better than it's ever been at this point. Like, I think it's really, really super solid. But a big sentiment I see in like my community and other people is just like they don't really have a ton to strive towards that they really care about doing, you know? Like tier 17s are cool, but it is mostly rehashed content in some kind of way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably have an in-depth discussion about those when we are deeper into the league and we had more hands-on experience with them. I'm curious to check them out, but like, yeah, what I've seen so far is very, very divided, and I've seen a lot of people also like demand for the removal of the unmodifiable modifier. Which, yeah, I don't know. It seems like some central axis of what they were trying to do with them there. So I would hope that they manage to fix it without removing that and make it feel good for everyone. And I wonder how much of the discomfort that people feel with it right now is just that we're day 4 of the league, right? Because, yeah, your character may be able for Ubers by the standards of last league, but might just be
I mean,
still
I don't
a
think
little bit of a journey.
I don't think the game will ever be good for everyone. I think that would probably make the game worse if they tried to make it good for everybody. But yeah, I hopefully we'll see.
All right. Well, you guys have anything else that you want to bring up that we want to discuss here? I feel like we had to cut our discussion of the league a little bit short because we were, well, surprised by the announcement of GGG, and a lot of our talking points were like annulled in the middle of the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because they were like
everything's
directly
solved.
shut down and addressed.
Yeah, we kind of just had to start winging it about random shit, unfortunately, because like in the middle of the podcast is just, well, all those things that you were going to complain about. Sorry.
Gone. Fixed. Well, not fixed yet, but coming.
But yeah, like definitely super cool that even though it's Easter weekend, they were able to work on something so quickly and give us, well, an update and hopefully a cool patch. Did they say when the patch will be implemented? No, there's no ATA on it yet.
They just said what we're working on. Like they don't even have, they don't have any of it done. They don't have any of it like concrete, I don't think.
Well, I mean, I would think some things of these are done. They said, we will do this, we will do this, we will do this. So it's like, oh, we are doing this. So yeah, I'm sure they're already busy with some of the adjustments. It's just the question is when will they be implemented and ready to roll out as a patch? Because there's a little bit more to that than just, you know, changing things. But they also have to make sure that they don't brick the game when they roll it out.
Yeah, it doesn't give any timeline. It just says each change out as soon as it's ready. It's pretty much. So we'll probably get a bunch of small patches, is what I would assume.
Well, hopefully most of it before the weekend.
Probably, yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, to be fair to them, Easter, and they said they learned from it. Like going on a holiday weekend makes it pretty tough You guys probably remember the days of when they would release in December, and it would be Skeleton Crew fixing the league for the first like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a bit rough.
On the bright side, though, I think that's something we haven't said at all. There's like close to zero technical problems. I mean, if you count the UI misgivings as like technical problems, sure, but like in terms of like actual lag or like client crashes being kicked to desktop, I think I had one crash from loading screen straight to desktop in the entire launch weekend. I played over 20 hours pure game time, and yeah, it works like a charm. The occasional problem with getting an instance with the spiky ping, I think that's what you also described, Ducks, right? Like,
yeah, but it was. I think that's more probably a personal issue. That's like a Florida issue. This is something that happens to me.
yeah, it's definitely
randomly
not
every
like
league.
a solely GGG problem. It's definitely something to do with ISPs and with network nodes and all that.
Yeah, it's probably something tangential to GGG, but I think it's probably the fact that Florida only really has like one route that comes in, and whenever there's problems in that route, PoE just suffers a lot of the time. But yeah, no, the patch like technically has been really solid. I haven't had any crashes. I haven't heard people really talking very bad about crashes. Apparently, the European servers are on fire in certain places a lot of the time, but that seems like an every league thing at this point. But yeah, I mean, overall, like patch has been pretty good. Besides just the league mechanic being a little, underdone.
Right. So we're gonna conclude with high hopes for the upcoming patch and hopefully some juice down the road for us players. Lighty, you said like you looked like you had a smirk on your face. You wanted to say something. Is there any remark you have?
I have a
before we
lot of
close things
remarks.
out?
I will be saying none of them. I hope everyone has a great time.
Oh no, actually, there was
No,
a super
say
chat
it.
here. $10
Let's
from
hear it.
Handsome Ben. Handsome Ben says, "I'm here for the Lighty rant. Please ask him how he feels about the league mechanic." That's a rather unspecific question for a podcast right after the league start. I'm sure we asked that question, but feel free to go
No
on
rant.
the Lighty rant.
There's no rant. It's just that the game feels really good. The crafting didn't feel good. It's probably now going to feel good. No complaints aside from that. Everything's good. Yeah. Having a good time
Wow.
playing Path.
Positive Lighty.
Yep.
Are you still in April Fool's mode?
No, I don't like April Fools. It's a bitch holiday. I like Christmas. April Fools for bitches. No, I have nothing negative to say here, really.
There's one thing that I still really quickly want to address. Or someone said, I have a question, what percentage of PoE players get to viably play endgame content? And that's like such an old thing, but I need to address it. It's just like, it's really hard to classify what is a PoE player because it's a free-to-play game. Anyone can download it and get into it. And like anyone who did that and may have quit even before they reach Brutus or, Merville or Part 2 or Maps would count as a PoE player. So like, yeah, I don't know. Probably a very small
check by
percentage.
Steam achievements, but that's a pretty shit metric. I mean, like overall, because there's something like super cooked. Like I think it's like 5% of Xbox players unlocked Scion, which is like crazy sounding. But I mean, yeah, it's like Kat said, the game is free, no bitching. It's been out for 12 years.
I didn't say no bitching. It just said it's free.
It's implied. Game is free, no bitching. If you want to play it, it's free. It's a good game. Play Path of Exile. Good time. Unlock Scion.
Yeah, it's just like it's pretty hard to even like what's an average player? Like people, you guys remember when people were saying average player constantly, and I'm like, what does an average player even mean? There's no definition for that.
Like a couple hours a night playtime. I think that's average, like 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah, but it's just like they wanted to say like, oh, the average players can't do Ubers. It's like, yeah, well, I don't think average players will probably ever see Ubers, to be honest with you. Like, why even care about that,
Well, that's not an average player.
Yeah,
that's just a shit player. That's different. If you're average, that means the time spent is going to be median amount. If you're not good at the game, that's something different. Doesn't mean you won't ever be good at the game, but to expect that you're just going to be playing 2 hours a night and then not be shit over time is like a bit ridiculous. It's just you play a lot and you learn a lot, sure, but some people just do the same thing and live in a bubble, and then you'll never get better. You don't have to be good. You can, as long as you're having fun, it's all that matters. It's a fucking video game, you know?
Yeah. It's just so weird that topic got so heated about what's an average player able to do. But I mean, if I had to guess what percentage of players hit the end game, probably, well, what's end game? I mean, that's the next question, right? Like, what's end game to
Red
you?
maps.
Like,
None of those
described
words
as
mean
endgame.
anything because
Yeah,
a
like,
large group of people will say if you've reached Act 10, you're in Endgame. And there's a large group of people who say if you've put a map in your map device, you're in Endgame. Then more people will be like, if you're in red maps, you're in Endgame. And then people will be like, oh, you're not in Endgame unless you're doing like juiced delirium for Watchstone mechanic, right? Like it's all Endgame.
If you
It's all Endgame.
if you're saying Act 10's endgame, I think you're probably a shitter. Yeah. Because there's literally like
Well, it's the end of the game.
There's tags for what constitutes endgame for 14, 15, and 16 maps are tagged as endgame maps. So that at least that's some barometer. But like the campaign beating Act 10, I don't think anyone's saying if you're that cooked saying that's endgame, you have bigger issues.
If you're that cooked, you might be a games journalist.
There are tons of people. I guarantee you there's tons of people that play up until maps, have done it multiple times, and then go play other games.
That's fine, but it's not endgame. And if they say it, Baylor, fuck them. You know, that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, endgame. That's the point. But the word doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
We can't save them all. All right.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to say what percentage of people get to red maps, I don't know, maybe 5%, maybe probably less than that. I think most people probably make it to like Act 1 and then they quit. If you just get rid of the people who quit at Act 1, maybe it's 15 or 20%. Like people who complete the campaign, how percentage of them make it to red maps? I don't know, 15 or 20. That's the best I can answer that question.
Okay, I got one more. And that was leading up to this podcast, I watched the Lighty's +1 podcast with Manny and Leggy from around the hype cycle before the league, right? And Lighty said something, and I'm going to paraphrase here, right? This is, but Lighty, you said, it doesn't really matter that much how it's implemented. Mark is taking the wheel, and I trust him. This may sound like maximum dick riding right now, but I'm confident.
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Yep.
Has your trust been shaken, not shattered?
Why? Why would it be? No. What, in the past 4 fucking days? No. No. Nothing's shattered. Like I don't know. There's like it's very the only complaint I can imagine people have in this league, you know, that have both active hemispheres still working, would be like the part of the league that is negotiable to interact with. You don't have to craft if you don't want to. The base game's fine. You could just bank shit and then not craft if you really want to do it now. We know that the patch is coming, so like there's no real complaints to be had, especially after seeing what we just saw. So if you don't want to, you know, interact with that part, that's fine. The part that's interactable, you just don't interact with it if you want to. Like the map stuff, if you're dying to that, like do lower tier maps, uninstall. I don't know at that point. I mean, if you're not paying attention and adding 4 projectiles to like your miscreations, then learn your lesson and don't do that again. But aside from that, yeah, it's not that difficult at the moment. The patch, like, it's not like that powerful Necropolis as far as an endgame content. And by endgame, I mean 14, 15, 16 maps, not Act 10.
All right, that's good to hear. No, I generally felt that that was a sentiment that was talked about a lot, like prior to this league. A lot of people felt there was a refreshing new take, a new energy, and a new sort of trust base. And I was, I thought that maybe with the disappointment of this initial league start weekend in some regards, some people may have taken that to heart in the wrong way. And it's good to hear that that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disappointed at all. Like, I play more than everyone here, and I don't. I'm not complaining. If the second it's shit, I'll be the first to tell you. But at the moment, it is not shit, and it feels fine to do, multiple pieces of content with many different characters.
And yeah, I mean the comment on Mark, he's been great, dude. I've been super happy. I've always kind of gotten the vibe that Chris never really wanted to be that front person. I've always felt that way about him. He did a great job doing it, but it always felt like he never really wanted to be that guy. And Neon seems to be that guy. Mark seems to be that guy. So I'm super happy with his whole everything that he's done. I think he's great.
All right. Balor, what do you think? When will we see your next... when is your crafting guide going to come out?
We'll see. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a crafter normally. Like, I don't even like harvest or essence or even rog crafting right now. Not that they're bad. I'm not a crafter person. I'll just get a crafter to make gear if I need to be crafted, or I'll buy it from trade. It's just never been a part of the game that I like.
I guess that's a topic we didn't really talk about, but I mean, if there's not really a lot of high-end crafters here, I don't know how. Lighty probably does a pretty decent amount of it, having to because Solo self-found. But the Veiled Orb change, that was relatively large, but
Yeah, we kind of have to see how that pans out, though. I would think it's a little bit too early to tell like the exact range of the implications, and also like has anyone done extensive betrayal farming to the point where we know for certain what the drop rate is of the Veiled Orb now?
It's not 100%. Yeah, it's not 100%. And the cost of it on softcore trade right now is 130 chaos per one.
That's very cheap, actually.
Well, it's probably going to. Well, you never know. It could go up. It could go down. It depends. I don't think people are using a lot of them right now, so I think the demand is really low. But I don't know. We'll see. So yeah. I think the drop rate is like 50% or less is what it feels like.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, like I just brought up the crafting thing and the somewhat cheeky question to Balor as a transition into the end segment of the podcast, where we give everyone the chance to give a little bit of a shout out to what the people can expect coming up. Do you have any content projects you'd like to talk about, Dux?
I was going to make a video complaining about the league mechanic and how the crafting and stuff was kind of underwhelming and all of that, but that video's kind of going out the window now because they just decided to fix essentially 95% of it. Other than that, no, not really. My league started didn't turn out super great for various reasons, but it is what it is, and I don't have anything to pitch right now. But yeah, just go play Path of Exile. It's relatively good base state. Don't let it be the worst retention league that we've ever had. That would be very sad because the base game state's very good, and it'd be very sad if this was the worst retention league ever. So make sure that doesn't happen.
I agree. The base game is really good right now, and I don't even think it's like comes close to the worst league ever in Path of Exile. I think it's very serviceable, and with some small improvements to the frequency of like good modifiers on the pack populations in your maps, and obviously the stuff that they've already said with the crafting. I could see this being a pretty good league. You were gonna say, Balor?
I don't know. I got a lot of hopes now that I've read all this patch notes. I just want to go to sleep for a week and wake up. I can't do that, but those will look really good.
Yeah, I have that always when they like announce the new league. Like I just want to play the new league, and all my motivation for the old league is killed. So I can totally see that happening with the current state of the game. I just want to play with all those changes that they said that they're working on right now. Makes sense. Right. Lighty, when is the next when do you find the next unique in your All for One series? When does the next video come out?
I found a couple things past couple days doing the Ghosted Exile shit. That was good. Still missing the affliction staff, which is unfortunate. I don't know why they have a unique that is like basically trash at a 0.5 drop rate in a league and then just make it super common. That's a decision. But yeah, having fun playing Path. If you want to play Path, do. If you don't, play something else. That's it.
All right.
Shout out to Cat Blaster,
Who's that?
It's you.
Cat Blaster.
Yeah. My stream title it said Cat Blaster and Finger Glove Waiting Room. That's you and
Who's
Baylor,
Finger
yeah.
Glove?
Baylor.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Cat Blaster and Finger Glove, yeah. Those little nicknames for you.
Yeah. We have to implement them here in the captions. All right. Well, thanks for making time on your very busy league start to come here and discuss these issues in such a positive mood and attitude.
Yes.
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 Both, of course, you, Lighty and Ducks. I thought we had a very constructive discussion, even though, like I said, most of our wind was taken out of our sails before we even got started. But that is something to be happy about, honestly. That's we'll gladly sacrifice the quality of the podcast for the quality of the league.
No, the quality of the podcast is all that matters, obviously.
Right. Okay, guys. So yeah, that's it. So if you've enjoyed the episode, but you've not been there from the start, or if you were part of the people who missed my glorious intro sketch on Twitch because I had some connection difficulties, you can check it out in full on the YouTube. And as always, this will be uploaded to all the podcast services as audio, and on Spotify you even get the video. So head over to there, leave a like, a thumbs up, or whatever you can do in terms of engagement, because I hear engagement is the shit, and it helps people who are not familiar with the content yet to find the content that they might like. So that's a really cool thing. If you're not following Balormage, Lighty, or BigDucks, then you can take care of that. The names should be linked in the podcast title, so you can directly click there to get to the respective channels. And yeah, there's going to be a new episode that's going to be announced probably in a couple days from now. We're going to reconvene here with some other PoE broadcasters to talk about the first week, and hopefully we'll be able to touch upon all the changes that have been implemented until then. That's it. Thanks, guys, for coming, and we'll see you for the next one. And if you've been supporting, you will be shouted out on the end screen. Thank you for your support. Bye-bye.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.